Do you know what to look for when you're buying vacant land? I know I don't.
Mama told me not to.
There are so many considerations involved in the acquisition of vacant land. You got zoning restrictions, proximity to neighbors, ingress, egress, elevations, perk testing, value. There's so many things to think about when you're looking at a piece of vacant land. There are so many things to consider that you really need somebody who knows what they're doing advising you along the way during that process. So today I brought in the vacant land and habitat specialist here at Modern Realty. He is the guy that knows the answers to these questions. I'm going to try to go through about half of his resume because otherwise we'd be here all day. But 92 to 2004, he was in the United States Army and Army Reserve. 2003 to 2014, he opened and ran and owned Smitty's Iron Works. That's where I met him at the gym working out. And then from there up till 2017, he was with Greater Midland, Director of Personal Training. And now he's with us at Modern Realty since June 2017 now. Volunteer history quickly. The Rock Center for Youth Development, Midland Noon Rotary Club. I saw him there last night flipping pancakes. Midland Board of Realtor Events Committee, Grievance Committee. He works with the Meridian High School track team. He works on the Biomedical Advisory Council at Meridian High. Leadership, Midland alumni. It's getting tired of this yet. Still going. Delta College Board of Curriculum Advisors, Midland Area Chamber of Commerce, Mid-Michigan Multi-Sport Club, and a bunch of other organizations I didn't have room on the page to list. But this is a guy, very special guy here, really, really involved in the community, and has a lot of real estate expertise, especially as it pertains to vacant land. He closed over 40 transactions last year, valued over almost $6 million in real estate sales last year. Just an incredible producing agent, helping a lot of people. And he's here today, Matt Smith. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Logan.
First question for you, right away. What are the most important aspects of looking for land to hunt?
Most important aspects, Logan, are really to understand with clarity what it is you want to use the land for. Sometimes I see people that think I want to buy some hunting land or I want to buy a building site with some acreage to it, and they really haven't thought through exactly how they want to use the land. So we need to determine those things first.
Okay, what's the easiest thing I can do once I own land to improve the habitat, and what equipment is needed for that?
Yeah, the first thing that you really want to look at is what does it have and what is it lacking? And that comes down to really three things: food, water, and cover. Okay, so for any kind of wildlife habitat, whether it's deer, turkeys, upland birds, squirrels, rabbits, whatever it is, those three things are going to be absolutely critical. So identifying what the land already has and what it's lacking is going to be where we want to attack it first.
Okay, and then from there, what kind of things do? You build trails? You build, expand on that for us a little.
Yeah. So if it doesn't have trails, we want to build trails, and we want to make sure that we're building those trails in a way that we can get in and out of the property as quietly and undetected as possible, thinking about prevailing winds and things of that nature. Probably one of the biggest things that's lacking on a lot of property that people miss is cover, and that's very easy and very fast to create, so you can make a big impact really fast.
I remember looking at some land with you. We were co-listing some land together, and as we walked the property the first time, there were a lot of things that you pointed out that, frankly, the average eyes like myself wouldn't have seen or necessarily understood. One of those things was elevation, and we were looking for wetland spots and buildable spots and things like that. How do you analyze the elevation of a property? Let's say before you make an offer on it, or during that process when you're doing your due diligence, what kind of tools do you have to investigate buildability or huntability or things like that?
Sure. Through the USDA office, there's soil maps that we can actually look at, maps of what the soil quality is and what types of soil are available on the property. That's going to make a big difference in what kind of habitat you can plant and things of that nature. When it comes to elevation in general, and you're thinking about wildlife, all animals are edge creatures. We call them edge creatures. So they like to use edges. They don't walk across the middle of an open field. They like to use an edge. So if it has ridges and things like that, that's highly advantageous.
Yeah, my cats are edge creatures.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Reasonable expectations and timeframes for shooting quality deer. What could a landowner expect for that?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of my property in particular. When I made a decision to improve the quality and the age structure of the deer on my own property, I didn't shoot any bucks for 2 years. In the third year, I shot a really nice 3.5-year-old mature buck. So if you think about the fact that most of the bucks that people shoot in Michigan are 1.5 years old, and you want to shoot a 3.5-year-old buck, it's going to take about 2 years. So if you're diligent to and set your standards and hang in there for a couple years, you can be shooting quality deer within 2 years.
Okay. This is a question I have a lot of interest in. I know you're working with somebody right now that's investigating this this opportunity as well. What is the best way to increase the value of vacant land?
The best way to increase the value of vacant land is to really look at the timber and understand the timber values. What a lot of people miss is when they look at a wood lot, if it's 40 acres of standing timber, they're not looking and processing what that timber is worth. So if you come in and you pay $80,000 for 40 acres, there might be $25,000 of standing timber on that property right now. So the return on investment can be very fast in terms of what you can pull back out of that. The really neat part about that is that with proper timbering, it's going to improve the habitat and actually make it a better habitat for the wildlife that you're trying to enhance as well. So it has an economic value, but it also has a recreational value for you and what you want to get out of the land as well.
How does that work? How do cutting trees down in a parcel of land, how does that increase the value for
That's a great question. So by opening up the canopy and allowing more sunlight to hit the forest floor, it encourages new growth from the floor. So if you look at a lot of old mature woodlots that are very, very shaded in the summer, and you look around at the ground, you don't see a lot of things growing at the ground. Well, if you think about an animal, they can only reach anything that's from about 1 foot to 4 foot off the ground. So if our trees are 50 feet tall and they're all leafed out and there's nothing growing on the forest floor, there's nothing for them to eat. If there's nothing for them to eat, there's no reason for them to be there. So by selectively cutting that timber, allowing the sunlight to get back to the forest floor again, you're rejuvenating that new life, which is then going to encourage the animals to come in and have that forage.
Okay. What are some state and local resources available to help me or anybody thinking about buying land learn how to improve the habitat? Any resources that we can look to?
Yeah, your local conservation office is a great place to start. In addition to someone like myself that has access to Michigan United Conservation Clubs and the Michigan DNR and some of those things. A lot of people aren't aware that there's a lot of grant money out there that can help you develop the land as well. And that comes through our USDA programs, which comes through the local soil conservation district. Those people are willing and eager to help. There's foresters that will literally come out and walk the land with you and look at the timber and help you understand a timber management program as well. Those are all things that I love to facilitate and be a part of, and more than happy to make the connections for people so that they're getting the right information from the right people.
What are some common mistakes that buyers make when they're buying land?
The biggest mistake I see with people buying land is they want to save money, which we all do, and that's a natural part of the process, but they sell it a little bit short, and they don't think through how, going back to our first question, how they're going to use the land. So, if you buy 20 acres of land and you think that's going to be enough for me to hunt, and 3 years from now, you're realizing that it wasn't enough, and you've got, a brother-in-law and a son or a cousin that want to hunt there with you, and pretty soon, you've limited yourself to what you can do by that. So sitting down and creating a plan before you buy the property, and really, using some guidance from somebody who's been through this process many times can help you set that 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan so that you buy the right property the first time.
And what would be some advice you'd give somebody considering selling their land, putting it on the market? How would you advise them to prepare it like you would a house?
The biggest thing in selling land is talking to and using somebody that can market the land properly, that understands the land. It's very unfortunate that I see a lot of listings that are just a shot of the trees from the road.
There's more to it than that.
There's just more to it than that. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Like what?
Well, you want somebody that understands, again, the timber and what's there, because if we're going to market it properly, we've got to be able to talk about it from an educated standpoint, rather than just saying it's 40 acres of timber. You want pictures, you want drone photography, you want somebody representing your land that, one, knows where the buyers are that want that land, and also can speak, from an educated standpoint about, what the assets of that land are.
And also, I think an agent that has walked the land with you. I think people take that for granted, but a lot of listings in our area are listed by agents, and I'm guilty of this myself, frankly, once or twice, where they've taken a vacant land listing and they never actually walked it. And I think that's something that makes you very special, very different, is the attention and the care that you give to your seller clients selling land. You really get to know the properties that you're listing. I've never seen anybody like you do that. Okay, and I think that's very important for anybody who's thinking about selling land. Is you need somebody who's not only an expert, who understands what you're going through, what you're trying to accomplish in terms of sale price and everything like that, but understands values, but understands the land itself, what the land means, how to position it and market it properly, and how to explain the benefits and the value and the potential sometimes of vacant land to a potential buyer, and be able to speak that language. You're the kind of guy that always has muck boots in the back seat of your car, and you're always ready to go out. I see you coming in the office sometimes with a suit and tie on and boots.
Boots.
Brings me back to your old Smitty days when you were in the gym every morning, like you still are now. But
yeah,
that's where we met. We had a good time back then,
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about regular, traditional real estate sales for residential properties now for a second here. What similarities do you find in the listing and marketing of vacant land as compared to marketing a single-family house?
I think the biggest thing goes back to what you said about taking the time to understand that the person that you're representing and the property, whether it's a house or land, is very important to that seller, and it's a big part of their life. And taking that process serious, it's more than a job. I know that sounds cliche, but it's more than a job. You're handling a transaction for somebody that means a lot to them. And whether it's walking through the home and helping that person understand what the assets of their home are that are the most marketable, or the land, the process is the same. You've got to take it serious, and your goal has always got to be to represent that client to the best of your ability.
Do you find it easier to estimate the market value of vacant land or of single-family houses?
I would say single-family houses.
Why?
The reason for that is that the dynamics of land is very, very different. And people do often ask me, hey, what's an acre of land going for?
What do you answer when you get asked that question?
I've got to look at it.
Yeah.
I've got to look at it, because the variables between different types of timber or no timber, you can have 20 acres of land that's 50% timber and 50% open field. Now you don't have as much timber value, but you might have tillable value.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of moving parts to vacant land and what it's valued at. And even when you're pulling comps and looking at the market and really doing some work on the data, you've got to dig into the data a little bit deeper and look at a comp and look at what that land had to offer and why it sold or why it traded on the market where it did.
Sure. It's just like farmland versus hunting land. Those are different uses, different conditions, different. Sometimes there are leases involved already, and and revenue that needs to be accounted for or adjusted for. So I think it's tough. It's tough to value vacant land. Not a lot of people really know how to do it.
Absolutely.
And you can take the traditional sales comparison approach, and you can try to find a 20 acre and a 10 acre in the same township and things. You can take those approaches that you would take with a single family house, but I don't think that really is accurate enough in the vacant land arena, because like you said, there are so many adjustments and considerations that have to be made. You think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you have some additional value offers for your clients with the Matt Smith Outdoors. Talk about that for us real quick as we wrap up.
Yeah, my Facebook or social media platform as a whole, between LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, Matt Smith Outdoors is a brand in addition to Modern Realty that I built that has a reach over the entire state. One of the most important things about marketing land, whether it's looking for buyers or sellers, is that you have a bigger reach. The involvement with a lot of programs out there, like the Michigan DNR, National Wild Turkey Federation, Pheasants Forever, Quality Deer Management Association, it gives me the ability to have a platform across the state that when you go to Matt Smith Outdoors Facebook page, you're going to see people on there following that page from all over the state. So it's a big asset, and honestly, it's just what I love to do anyway.
All right, if you're thinking about selling or buying some vacant land, give Matt Smith a call. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.